Boost your English.
From English Podcast with John.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to English Podcast with John. Thanks for joining us today. In this episode, we're talking about why reading every day matters and how it can support your personal growth. We're here to make your English practice simple, relaxed, and enjoyable. Hi there. I am so excited to chat about this today. It feels like such a cozy, kind of feel-good topic.
Hey,
Yeah,
I'm doing great, thank you. This is definitely one of my favorite subjects, too. How are things with you?
things are great. And yeah, I think this is so relevant for everyone listening who's really focused on, personal growth and just getting a little bit better every day.
Absolutely. It's such a foundational habit. And honestly, it's one of those things that can feel a little intimidating, but it really doesn't have to be.
I completely agree. And, before we really get into it, I just wanted to say, if you find our conversation today useful, maybe just share it with a friend. Or if you haven't already, take a second to hit that subscribe button.
Yeah, that would be amazing. It really helps us keep these conversations going.
It really does. So a huge thank you so much to everyone for tuning in and spending your time with us. Okay, let's get into it. I want to start with this core idea of consistency, especially around that phrase, reading every day. Doesn't that feel a little intense?
It does. It feels like a huge barrier for a lot of people. It's almost like it triggers what some behavioral scientists call activation energy.
Yeah,
The thought of the effort is so high that you just decide not to start at all.
right. The all or nothing mindset.
Exactly. And for me, daily reading only really became a pleasure, something I looked forward to, when I totally separated the idea of volume from the idea of consistency.
Oh, that's interesting. So you're saying it's not about how much you read, but just that you do it.
Precisely. In the beginning, the number of pages or chapters just doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is not breaking the chain.
Yeah.
I had to be really intentional about it. I blocked out just a small, non-negotiable window of time.
How small are we talking?
Just 10 minutes. Usually right before I put my phone away for the night. And the only goal was, did I read something? Yes or no? I wasn't allowed to judge what I read or how much. The whole point was just building that psychological cue,
I love that you focus on the minimal effort. Because 10 minutes a day, well, that doesn't sound like much, does it? But I guess it adds up. It's that compounding effect we hear about.
It's the ultimate cognitive compound interest, really. Over a year, 10 minutes a day is 60 hours of focused reading. That's a huge amount of immersion when you think about it like that.
Wow, 60 hours. I never did the math on that. That's substantial.
It is. And I can tell you from experience how it fails.
Hmm.
There was a time when I tried to force myself to read these really dense, challenging nonfiction books for 30 minutes every night.
So you were treating it like homework, almost.
Exactly like homework. It was this chore I was dreading all day, and of course it failed. Miserably. When 9 p.m. came around, I'd find any excuse to just scroll on my phone instead. The habit just couldn't form because the activation energy was way too high.
So how did you get past that? Because I think a lot of us feel a little guilty if we're not reading the hard books. We worry that picking up a fun thriller instead of a classic novel is somehow, cheating.
And guilt is so common, but it's based on a misunderstanding of the goal. The first goal is just automation, making the act of picking up a book the default. So to get over that guilt, I had to pivot completely. I just picked up a really fun, addictive science fiction novel,
Something purely for entertainment.
purely. And once I proved to myself that I could keep the habit going for a month, no matter what the content was, then I could slowly start to bring in some of the harder stuff. But just the simple act of focusing on text,
Right.
that's the muscle you're trying to build first.
That is such a vital point. So for anyone starting out, you'd say just prioritize what's interesting and easy over what you think you should be reading.
Absolutely. Pleasure first. I always suggest finding something that connects to a passion you already have. If you love cooking, read food blogs or complex recipes. If you love cars, read technical articles. Short essays are great too because you get that little dopamine hit of finishing something quickly.
That quick win, yeah, that's a powerful motivator. But then there's the format question. Does it matter? I mean, do audiobooks count? Or does it have to be a physical paper book versus, say, an e-reader?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? From a pure information gathering perspective, yes, audiobooks 100% count. They're fantastic for reclaiming time when you're commuting or at the gym.
But I sense a but coming.
But If the goal includes building those higher-level cognitive skills, like sustained focus or deep retention, then actually engaging with text is, well, it's just superior.
Okay, can you unpack that a little?
Okay.
What makes reading text superior in that sense?
It's all about something called cognitive bandwidth. When you're listening, especially if you're multitasking, a big chunk of your brain power is just focused on decoding the sounds. With physical text, your brain does this amazing thing called spatial mapping.
Spatial mapping. What's that?
You actually remember ideas based on where they physically appeared on the page. Top left, bottom right. That physical context acts like a kind of scaffolding for your memory. So while audio is great for getting the big picture, text is just better for that high-fidelity retention and, honestly, for training your focus.
That makes so much sense. I've noticed when I'm reading something really dense, I have to have the physical book. I need to be able to highlight and fold the corners. It's like I need that tactile interaction for the information to really stick.
You're instinctively creating physical anchors for those abstract ideas. That's exactly it.
That's so interesting. My own approach to finding time is all about what I call attention reallocation. I realized I don't really have a time problem. I have an attention problem.
I think most of us do. So how does that work for you in practice?
Well, I just try to substitute reading into those little moments that are usually wasted. I have an e-reader app on my phone, and I use it for micro-reading sessions, waiting for the kettle to boil, standing in line at the store. It's about turning that dead time into productive time without needing to find a huge empty slot in my day.
That's so smart. It's about being prepared, isn't it? Because if you have to go find the book or charge your device, the screen is always going to win. The material has to be immediately accessible.
Exactly. Zero friction. Okay, so we've talked a bit about the how. I'd love to shift gears now and talk more about the deeper why. Let's talk about personal growth. How do you see reading contributing to that? Is it about career stuff or is it something bigger?
The career benefits are definitely there, for sure. Better communication, more knowledge. But for me, the most profound impact is on what I'd call cognitive flexibility. Growth, really, is just about updating your mental models of the world, and reading is the best way to do that.
Updating your models of the world. I like that. I
Yeah.
actually had an experience with that recently. I was reading this collection of essays that completely changed how I think about problem solving.
Oh, yeah. What was the shift?
Well, I was stuck in this very rigid, linear way of thinking. Efficiency is everything. But these essays introduced the idea of anti-fragility, the concept that some things and people actually get stronger from chaos and stress. It was a totally different perspective.
That's a huge concept. And was it a business book or something else?
It was way more philosophical, actually. It showed me how reading can offer these disruptive viewpoints that you just wouldn't find in your normal day-to-day life. It really challenged my most basic assumptions about success.
And did you notice that change in your thinking right away, or was it more of a slow burn?
Definitely a slow burn. At first, I was a bit resistant. It felt so counterintuitive. But the idea was planted. And over the next few weeks, I found myself just seeing it everywhere. I started testing it in small ways. The change wasn't a lightning bolt. It was more like a slow, steady erosion of my old way of thinking.
That slow erosion is exactly it. It's not about finding one right answer in a book. It's about collecting better questions. Which brings up another point. Have you ever read something you just fundamentally disagreed with and that still helped you grow?
Oh, absolutely. I recently forced myself to finish this political history book that honestly I felt was just flawed from the start. My first instinct was to just put it down.
But you pushed through.
I did. I treated it like an intellectual exercise. And what I realized was the growth wasn't in agreeing with the author. It was in understanding the path they took to get to their conclusions. I gained this really clear map of a worldview that was totally alien to my own.
That's the heart of critical thinking, isn't it? The ability to understand a reality that isn't yours. You develop a kind of intellectual humility because you see how other people's beliefs are built. It's about comprehension, not just confirmation.
And that idea of comprehension connects so perfectly to empathy. You mentioned it earlier. Reading fiction especially feels like a training ground for emotional intelligence.
It's the ultimate social simulator. There's actual research on this. Reading long-form fiction enhances what psychologists call our theory of mind, our ability to understand what other people are thinking and feeling.
So reading a novel is basically a workout for your social skills.
Precisely. It's a safe, controlled environment to practice empathy. You get to step into the shoes of someone from a totally different background, a different culture, a different time period, and you spend hours experiencing their world. That translates directly into being a more nuanced, understanding person in the real world.
It really expands your own worldview without you ever having to leave your chair. You get the complexity and the context that you just don't get from a news headline.
It's the difference between reading a Wikipedia summary of an event and reading a memoir from someone who lived through it. One is data, the other is humanity.
That's a perfect way to put it. This brings us to another angle that I know is really important for a lot of our listeners, the language and skill development part. Just anecdotally, have you noticed your own vocabulary and just your flow of speaking get better from reading?
Oh, without a doubt. I almost never study vocabulary lists anymore. That kind of learning is, well, it's very explicit. You learn a definition, but you don't learn the nuance. You don't learn the connotation. The real magic happens with implicit learning.
And how does reading trigger that implicit learning?
It's all about pattern recognition. When your brain sees a word, let's say a complex word like ubiquitous, used 5 or 6 times in different sentences, it doesn't just learn the definition, it learns the whole grammatical structure around it. You absorb the syntax without even thinking about it. The language moves from being a tool you have to analyze to just part of you.
I actually had that happen the other day. I was writing an email and I used this phrase, something like a meticulous confluence of circumstances. And I stopped and thought, where did that come from?
And you traced it back.
I did. I realized I'd been reading this very detailed history book the night before, and that exact kind of phrasing was all over it. It just seeped in.
That's the proof right there. It's true assimilation. The language is now part of your cognitive architecture. It's seamless.
So for listeners who are reading in English to improve, what's your best advice to make it less intimidating? It can feel so overwhelming at times.
My biggest piece of advice is actually a bit counterintuitive. You have to let go of the need for 100% comprehension.
Really? Not look up every word.
Please don't. If you're stopping every 3 words to use a dictionary, you kill the momentum, you destroy the pleasure, and you completely sabotage that implicit learning process we were talking about.
So just focus on the flow of the story.
Exactly. I call it the 70% rule. If you understand roughly 70% of what's going on, just keep reading. Trust your brain to figure it out from context. Only look up a word if the entire story collapses without its meaning.
That's such liberating advice. It turns it from a test into an exploration. What about rereading books you already know in your native language, but this time in English?
That is a brilliant strategy, especially for intermediate learners. When you already know the plot, all that mental energy that was going toward what happens next is now free. You can focus entirely on how the language is being used, the specific word choices, the sentence structure.
You're using the familiar story as a kind of scaffold for the new language.
You've got it. It makes the whole experience so much smoother and more enjoyable. And as we said, enjoyment is the key to consistency.
Okay, let's bring this all back to some really practical advice. We live in a world that is just constantly fighting for our attention. Reading has to compete with everything else. What's your single best tip for fitting it into a super busy modern life?
My top tip is what I call the digital replacement strategy. You have to identify your single most common time-wasting habit. That moment you instinctively reach for your phone, and you replace that action with reading.
So you're not finding new time, you're hijacking an existing bad habit.
Precisely. Yeah. For example, if the first thing you do when you sit on the couch after work is scroll through social media, the new rule is book first. You have to read for just 10 minutes before you're allowed to pick up the phone. It uses the power of that existing cue to build a new habit.
That's so smart because it cuts down on decision fatigue. The decision is already made for you. I have a similar thing, which is just making sure the book is always there. I used to waste so much time in waiting rooms just scrolling aimlessly. Now I always have a book or an article saved and ready to go.
The zero friction rule, again, it's essential. But that brings up the big one, the problem that derails so many people. What do you do when you start a book and you just hate it? Is it okay to quit?
It is not only okay to quit a book you hate, I would argue it is mandatory to quit.
Mandatory? Why so strong? Isn't there value in pushing through?
No, because you have to defeat what's called the sunk cost fallacy. That's when you keep investing your time and energy into something just because you've already invested in it, even when it's making you miserable.
I see. So because you've already read 100 pages, you feel like you have to read the next 300.
Exactly. People feel guilty, they spent money on it, or a friend recommended it, but forcing yourself through a book you hate poisons the entire habit. It makes reading feel like a punishment, and that negative feeling will break your streak faster than anything.
That's such an important piece of permission for people to hear. Your time is your most valuable asset. The goal is consistent, pleasurable reading. The book is supposed to serve you, not the other way around.
Yes. So, shifting back to consistency for a second, do you set a specific daily goal, like a number of pages or a set amount of time?
When I was first building the habit, yes, I set a time goal. 15 minutes, no exceptions. Time is just a cleaner metric than pages. Now that the habit is established, it's more pleasure-driven, but I still protect about 25 minutes before bed. I treat it like an appointment in my calendar.
I had that same realization about protecting the time. I actually tracked my screen time for a week and realized I was losing 90 minutes a day to mindless scrolling. That's enough time to read 3 books a month.
It's almost never a time problem, is it? It's always an attention problem. When you start treating your attention as a scarce resource, you become so much more protective of it.
That's the perfect summary. Reading every day is a low-cost, high-return investment in your future self.
A powerful compounding asset. Absolutely.
Before we wrap up, I have one last quick tip on habit formation that really helped me. It's the idea of habit stacking.
Oh, right. Where you attach the new habit to something you already do automatically.
Exactly. Like maybe you always make coffee in the morning, so the new rule is while my coffee brews, I read 5 pages. You're linking the new behavior to a really strong existing cue, so it becomes automatic much faster.
That's a classic from behavioral science. It takes willpower completely out of the equation. And just one final thought. We should remember that so much of this is available for free. Public libraries are such an incredible resource that we sometimes forget about in our digital world.
A truly amazing system of shared knowledge. Okay, let's wrap this up. This has been such a great conversation.
It really has. My pleasure.
Yes.
So many good, actionable ideas for everyone listening.
We would love to hear from all of you. Please leave a comment and share a story. What are you reading right now? Or how has reading helped you grow recently? We really do read every single one.
And thank you for joining us and spending this time with us. Remember that every single time you choose to read, or even just listen to a conversation like this one, you are actively investing in yourself.
Keep up that daily practice, that same consistency we talked about with reading. It's what makes the difference in any skill. Every little bit really does help.
We'll be back soon with more conversations, exploring other topics to help give you a little more clarity and insight.
And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this if you found it useful. It helps us so much.
It really does. It helps these ideas reach more people. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye, everyone. Go protect that reading time.
Talk to you soon.